language. Thank you very much. Let me know if you can't hear me online, or somebody let me know if they're commenting there. Thank you for that kind introduction. Yeah, so I'm going to talk today just about UCD Library. I should say at the beginning, at the outset, some of you will be familiar with my colleague, Josh Clark, and he really should be here today, either alongside me or instead of me, really, as he manages our social media platforms. But he's happily on leave this week. So I'm going to speak today about social media and how we use it to engage our audiences, to enhance visibility and support the library's work. And a little bit, there's going to be some repetition, I'm afraid, of Ned's excellent presentation, because those challenges include X. So as the introduction stated, I'm Library and Communications and Public Engagement Manager. And so we have a team of 4. Where's my clicker?
On the table.
Yeah. So we're a team of 4. I'm joined by Josh Clark, who I mentioned, who's the Outreach Librarian. He manages our library website, social media, as well as digital and print promotions. He's a real all-rounder. We also, up until recently, had a multimedia designer, Sean, who recently retired, who supports the team and all of our library colleagues with graphic and multimedia design. Keep an eye out on our LinkedIn for future job posts, as we'll be replacing Sean after his retirement. And finally, the 4th member of our team is Aoife Corcoran, who supports the team in a range of administrative tasks and focuses primarily on events and promotions. So Aoife is our library assistant. So just skipping on there to why we use social media. So I mean, a lot of this has been covered already today, but primarily it's around community building and engagement and reaching our various audiences, and I'll get into who those audiences are in a moment. Also to provide information on library services and, importantly, kind of changes to those services and changes to our buildings. So for those of you who don't know, we're undergoing a capital development project, a phased kind of capital development project in the James Joyce Library over the coming years. And so there's a lot of changes to either access to stock and access routes and things like that, that we use social media to kind of push out those notices through those channels. Also just to promote events and workshops, and then importantly to expand networks and keeping up to date with what's going on across campus and with other libraries and universities, and also cultural heritage centres. So our audiences are quite diverse, and a lot of these will be quite similar for most of you. So internally, there's obviously the UCD community, which is comprised of nearly 40,000 students, including international students on campus, of which there are over 11,000, over 5,000 students in overseas operations, and of which there's 12,000 graduate students and over 2,000 PhD students. So even within that cohort, it's quite diverse. On the staff side, then, there are over 2,000 academic staff and nearly 2,000 professional staff. And then on the external side, there's yourselves, library and archive professionals. There's the research community, is really important one, and the cultural heritage sector as well. So for those of you who don't know, the library contains 3 major cultural heritage repositories, so the UCD Archives, Special Collections, and the National Folklore Collection. And therefore, researchers and professionals in the cultural heritage sector are an important cohort as well. In terms of alumni, then, there's over 300,000 alumni across nearly 200 countries, and then also just the general public as well, we'd consider an audience. So we have different archives that are attracting different audiences, and also the digital library, which my colleagues are here today, attract kind of a general public audience as well. So as you can see, we have a very diverse range of audiences with different messaging requirements, and that can be a challenge at times. But we engage with these audiences across several different social platforms, including, so many of which have been described today, and one which is maybe new to other people as well. So Instagram, primarily, we use it to reach our undergraduate students, as has been mentioned already. So popular with kind of 18 to 34-year-olds. It's the platform that's kind of growing for us at the moment in terms of engagement. The messaging is tailored to kind of create community and to inform and remind students about a range of services available to them and workshops, events, etc. And also to kind of, as I say, build that community and give them a sense of belonging in the library. It's an important channel also for us for collaborating with other units on campus, and this is something we're trying to do increasingly to leverage kind of the attention that some of our colleagues in other units on campus have, such as UCD Global, have a really active Instagram platform. They're also on TikTok as well. So this is our area that's growing quite quickly. We also have Facebook, and it's, I suppose, a little bit of a legacy channel in that it was quite popular at a time, and it's quite static at the moment. It has a more mature audience, an international audience, and there's quite a number of alumni would kind of access or engage with us on Facebook. There's also an element of it that the audience is interested in the cultural more in the cultural heritage posts, and also our posts around the Irish Poetry Reading Archive. So the poetry community is a bit more active there as well. But it's not really as engaged as Instagram. I've included YouTube, which many wouldn't necessarily consider a social media platform, and our YouTube is not necessarily acting as one. But I include it mostly as a signal towards what we want to get to, I suppose, and something that we're looking at the moment. So currently it's a mix of videos, tutorials on finding different types of information, practical usage guides, and information on our collections, and also testimonials. So there's kind of an archive of like webinars there. To date, as I said, it's been used kind of as an archive, and it's linked to elsewhere on websites. And it's not really used as a social media platform, but it can be. And when we have our new wonderful multimedia designer, we're hoping to kind of expand our content development in video. And so we'll be looking to explore options of using YouTube a bit more actively, as a lot of young people are on YouTube and use it to search for information. X then, as has been already described, when it was Twitter, obviously it was a very effective channel for us. We had over 9,000 followers, and the engagement was great. As has already been described, the engagement is very low now, and I'll discuss in a moment how we kind of dealt with that. We also have Blue Sky, and as you can see, we're kind of small following at the moment. Please follow us. But it is growing, and we're working on that, and it's really helpful. I mean, we've been looking at Ned's content, and we continue to kind of steal his ideas and build on that audience. So it was really useful to hear that earlier. We also have a LinkedIn account. Again, this was established in response to the downturn in X, and it was just started recently. So it's primarily, we're just using it for job posts at the moment, but we do want to kind of develop it more, and similarly in ways to engage alumni and professional networks and academic staff. WorkVivo is the one that maybe, I don't know, is anybody here familiar, not UCD basically, is anyone familiar with WorkVivo? So WorkVivo is an internal communications platform, and it's run by Zoom. So this, so I started in this role around this time last year, and within a few weeks, UCD were saying, okay, this is a new internal communications platform. Get all your colleagues to use it, and it was implemented in response to, I suppose, grievances around poorly targeted emails across the university, and it's been up and running now for a year. It's still finding its feet to a certain degree, but actually kind of coming back to our earlier conversations before lunch, it actually is a great place for communities of practice to set up and to have like somewhere where it's like their own social media space where they can share information and keep in touch with people in their communities of practice as well. So I won't go into too much detail. You can ask me afterwards more about it if you like, but that's another platform that we maintain and use. And the library is quite fortunate in that we are a core unit, so we have access basically or reach to the full university through our library update space on Zoom or on WorkVivo, I should say. So the recent challenges, I feel like they've already been discussed, so I won't spend too much time on it. But the recent challenges that I wanted to talk about was around X and how we dealt with it, and we were guided very much by Ned's advice as well. So there was lower and lower engagement on the platform over the last 18 months, 2 years, and this is all as a result of algorithmic bias towards verified or paid accounts. There was much lower reach, much lower engagement, less relevant posts, and more controversial and salacious posts. Promoted content was prioritized, which meant that our stuff was being pushed down or not engaged with. And reduced content moderation, importantly, led to a change of tone. It wasn't a nice place to be. And that does increase the potential for negative interactions, and that therefore can lead to reputational risk, which as communications manager is a concern for me. Removal of analytics, which Ned mentioned as well. There was no reporting available. We couldn't actually see, what we were doing. In some ways, we were moving in the dark. And scheduling tools as well were limited, things like that. So it just became a harder place to work, and it wasn't warranting the effort. Many followers ceased engaging, as you know, or moved to alternative platforms. And there was a kind of a period, I feel like last summer, where everyone was kind of going, where are you going? Where's everyone going? And it was like, where's the party at? And, I think we possibly were a bit slower, kind of taking our time, looking to see, is it Threads, Mastodon, Blue Sky, and what are the different the pros and cons of all these different places. In the end, we landed on Blue Sky and LinkedIn. This has, had a big effect on us in that there were 9,000 followers for UC Library on X, and now that audience is quite fragmented. And so that effect we're still kind of dealing with, I suppose, and rebuilding as Ned pointed out earlier. In terms of how we dealt with it, we established, as I said, Blue Sky and LinkedIn. In April, we ceased posting content on X, but we gave our users, our followers, a lot of notice. So over a period of 3 months, kind of leading up to that, we kept directing people to Blue Sky and LinkedIn. Whoever was left on X, basically. And then we ceased posting, and we put up a notice to say that we weren't there anymore. And now the efforts are primarily been channeled towards Blue Sky, LinkedIn, and also WorkVivo as our additional space as well. So in terms of future challenges, we do have a bit of a way to go to rebuild our following in this new fragmented environment. But at the same time, there are opportunities as the audience is more of an engaged one, and it's a nicer place to be. And I think, we have confidence that in time we'll get back up there. The experience with X has highlighted, however, our vulnerability to algorithmic changes, and other channels are not totally immune to such changes. Changes of ownership. It's a strange world out there at the moment. Therefore, we hope that the diversification of our channels will kind of protect against some of these things happening in the future, or protect against losing our following in the future. Or just format changes are another concern, I suppose. So Instagram will always have kind of new features and updates, and this does impact on skills and resources. So you do have to kind of, with this ever-shifting kind of environment, you have to keep up and monitor the platform, monitor changes, trends, policy changes, all of these things that can affect how we use it. For us, another kind of key question is to TikTok or not to TikTok. And I'd be interested in hearing anybody else's thoughts on this. It seems to be quite labor intensive and physically intense. Another challenge, I suppose, is content saturation. meaning that content loses effectiveness because audiences are fatigued or desensitized, overwhelmed. They just kind of gloss over content. So I'll just finish with a few ways that we hope to kind of combat this. In terms of content, we want to focus on improving our storytelling. So consider every message with the question, where does this fit within the story of UCD Library? What is kind of our community story, and how is this helping to tell that story? We want to lean more into authenticity and develop content that is relevant and informative and correctly targeted at the right audience. For example, we have started to, and we want to continue to engage our student library guides in developing eye-catching content aimed at students. It's important to also keep our core kind of aims in mind that I outlined at the beginning of this presentation, and not to allow kind of distractions of new trends to kind of get in the way. I think that can always be a danger with social media. Finally, I think it's important to perform a health check or kind of a risk assessment on platforms, a couple of times a year to make sure that you're keeping up to date with those kind of changes in either policy or algorithms, just to kind of, I suppose, protect against scenarios that like happened with X in the last couple of years. And this can be done in tandem with content and tools reviews as well. So I'm going to stop there before I get a notice. Thank you very much.